and this is a kick-ass one. I swear, so if you get offended, I'm not really sorry. So, so this is our 7th one. I'm actually co-hosting it with Brian over there. He's going to be on the moderator. Bobby up front, I can't see because of the light. And we're going to do a few things before I have Bobby come up and before we start. So everyone see where you're sitting, right? I want everyone to get up and go sit next to a completely different person that is not. If you didn't get a piece of paper, grab a piece of paper. We're going to do a fun activity. Some of you have already written it down. But what I want everyone to do is to actually write down what their theme word is for the rest of this year. What's your theme word? If you don't have a marker, there's markers in the back. But what's your theme word?
This is one of those mics you have to get right up close and personal with. Hi, my name is Bobby Carlton. If I haven't met you before, I'm the founder of Mass Innovation Nights and also Innovation Women. Mass Innovation Nights has been running for the last 10 years. We have a monthly event. Every month we help launch for free 10 to 15 new products. We've launched over 1,400 new products in the last 10 years. And those companies have gotten more than $3 billion in funding. That's with a B. Thank you. But it's not due to me, it's due to the community effect. So we call it crowd promoting. And when everybody works together, it helps promote local startups. And so that is really our goal. Red, where are you broadcasting to today?
Everywhere.
Everywhere?
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn?
Facebook.
Facebook?
Twitter,
YouTube,
and
Instagram.
I don't know, Pinterest?
Instagram.
So
You can find it on LinkedIn.
you can find it on LinkedIn under
Brad Powell.
Brad Powell.
On my profile.
Ah, so Brad is broadcasting, and if you want to spread the word about LinkedIn Local, one of the things that you can do is go to Brad's profile and share it, right? Yes. So if we all went and did that right now, it would be amazing the reach this room would have. When we run Mass Innovation Nights, we do Facebook Live every month, and we get, 30, 40, 50 people sharing those posts, and they go out to thousands of people. I just want to also give a shout out to Omama and to Brian, who were so key to making this all happen tonight. I'm just the promotional tool. So we do a lot on Mass Innovation Nights and for Innovation Women on Twitter. And so I am totally here like the rest of you to learn and connect on LinkedIn tonight. So I'm going to put away my Twitter finger and bring out my LinkedIn finger. So if you are a speaker and you just happen to be a woman, I'd love to talk to you as well. So come find me, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I think we're going to let this show hit the road, right? All right, thank you so much.
So Talia will be our moderator. However, we are going to open it up to questions afterwards.
So can I be the one to break the ice and say, we've known each other since I was in like 3rd grade, and she said my name wrong, Madden still says it wrong, but she can say it wrong.
No, how do you say it? How do you say it?
It's Taylor.
Taylor.
Taylor. So
Oh,
it's
snap.
it's a Boston thing. It's not you. It's everybody that lives in Boston.
Taylor. Taylor is our moderator. I apologize.
No worries. No worries.
Can I just say one thing? So before we get started, I want to call out Mark real quick. So Mark actually spoke at our 2nd LinkedIn Local back in September last year, and it was his first speaking engagement. If you guys aren't following Mark, then you need to, because you're missing out on some pretty amazing kick-ass stuff. But then second of all, he's been, how many speaking engagements have you had in 1 year now?
Wow.
LinkedIn Local is your place to be. So if you're not popping, if you're not connecting with people, make it yours. Do what you want to do, because the opportunities are endless. So I just wanted to call out Mark for that. So here you go.
Yes. Yes. So if you don't mind, can I look in your face? Hey, how you doing? And if you guys have any questions, raise your hands. I'll come to you. You don't have to come to me. So I have, and I think a lot of people in the room have been following this movement over the last few weeks. And I would just want to say, wow, because your numbers on LinkedIn are insane. And I get all of my notifications popping up. You know, there's like 822 likes on somebody with clothes on. So, I absolutely love the content. I love how you are able to merge not just business, but personal with business. And that's my first question, is because typically it's, you know, business is business, life is life. You don't merge the two. But it seems as if you guys have all perfected the ability to merge the two without having one take over the next, or having it be too business or too personal. How did you find your happy medium?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm so excited. It's the first time in Boston. So thank you for having me. The coffee is amazing. I have way too much.
Don't have Dunkin', that's not real.
I did.
How?
From whatever the question is, how did we find the balance of personal to business? So for me, when I was jumping on LinkedIn, it was literally like exactly what you thought of LinkedIn, like when it just came out, right? Like the resume. That's where you go to get hired. So nobody was really doing anything outside of like typing, like this is what I'm going through, this is my story. There was really no videos. That's throwing me off. I thought he was throwing numbers at me. But for me, like I knew that no one was going to listen to a kid that didn't really have any experience yet, that was building this company. He failed a bunch of times. So I just started telling stories, and I found my success in just being different. One of my favorite quotes is, "It's good to be better, but it's better to be different." Like that's all I did. I just told stories, and this is what I'm going through. This is what it's like. I didn't pretend to know anything that I didn't. In terms of balance, like for me, it's just I'm the same dude when you see me on camera. I'm the same dude when I'm closing a deal. I'm the same dude when I'm with my dog. It's just this is who I am, and I have that overall clarity on that. So if you have that clarity, you can do anything online and offline. That's me. So not really a balance, just this is who I am.
I actually hesitated on that question because I don't feel like I have a balance at all. As an entrepreneur, I feel like I'm always working, and I feel like I'm never working. You know, it's living the dream. So I just want to actually give a bit of a shout out to Mark, you know, because we're here to talk about how we use LinkedIn. And one of the reason we met was I was looking through on LinkedIn, looking for other radio and TV and podcasters, etc. And I found Mark. And I invited him to be on my TV show. He invited me to be on his podcast. And I want to say that he has done the one thing that I suggest to all 200 of our guests to do. Pull a 30 to 60 second clip and promote that. He had featured Gary V. He mentioned Gary V in his message. He had like 30,000 views of this one clip. So he's a rock star with LinkedIn. And when you reach out to people, find people that you want to do business with and just reach right out to them. That's what I did with Mark. So I really don't differentiate the two. My life is my business, and being in recovery as an alcoholic and talking about my sobriety is something that I guess you could say is personal. But for me, when I mention it from the stage, I always get people that really appreciate that, whether they've had an alcohol or drug problem or not. They can always relate to being authentic and genuine and showing up and telling it like it is. So that's how I bring my personal life.
How are you guys all doing tonight?
Good.
Thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate so many great people in the room that I've met, Greg, and a lot of other people all around that I really just look up to. And, you know, before I begin, I want to give a shout out to Q, because I wouldn't even be on LinkedIn if it wasn't for Quentin. And I remember way back when I interviewed him at the beginning of last year, and we just had just a chill conversation about his life story, how he got to be. And I remember he kept on talking about LinkedIn. He kept on talking about how it's such a great opportunity for real people to really just be their authentic selves and push the kind of content they want to do. So when it comes to like professional, personal balance, Honestly, for me, I think it's quite different. Like I've never had a 9-to-5 job. I've always just done my own thing. And I talk a little bit on LinkedIn about business, but honestly, I'm more or less, I really like talking about things that are personal, things like mental health issues. Like I literally, like an hour before this started, I wrote a post about how many times have you cried, like just in the last week or so, or when was the last time you cried? And I feel like for me, coming from my background, honestly, the reason why I'm on LinkedIn is not to get business. I do have a business. I have plenty of clients that have come because I keep putting out the personal side of me. But when it really comes to holistically everything that I do, I really feel like it is truly encompassing in who I am as an individual that enables me to get that business. So I've maybe made like 10 posts in my entire LinkedIn career about business. And honestly, the posts that are more personal, that have nothing to do with business, do really well because at the end of the day, for example, I landed a client of mine who's a massive CEO in like the Fortune 200, and it literally just started from us on a personal note and her with her son. And so, I keep seeing this lesson everywhere I go, whether it's at events or online or this conference or whatever it is. Just be yourself, put out your truths, your values, and the people that are going to really empathize with that, those are the people that you want in your circle. Other people, who cares? There's like 8 billion people. You're not gonna, and not everyone's gonna like you. And it's just that factor of like not necessarily just looking at life in black and white, but more or less what Cammy said of how it's really a merge. But that being said, I definitely think there is a balance that somebody can have of personal and of professional, where you're not super salesy, but then at the same time you're also being with yourself, and you're also connecting to potential clients that you could help out and either help their business or their own personal lives. So I feel like from my perspective, it is just simply a matter of just getting out there, just trying to share my truth with the world. And if that has to do with business, that's cool.
So I gotta come after all that. All right. No pressure. So how many people like brands on the internet?
What?
Brands.
Instagram.
No, not infograms. Brands. B-R-A-N-D-S.
Oh.
They don't usually do that good a job, right? Like you don't really trust having a conversation with some corporate logo a lot of the time. You know that there's good people, hopefully, behind these brands, but we don't really have an emotional attachment to them. So how many of you have gone to a website and you dig around and you're thinking about using a product and service, maybe it's something you like, maybe it's something that you got recommended to you by a friend, and then you go to the About page and it says, our engineers, our people have 200 years of combined experience, yet none of them have a profile picture and we don't know who they are? To me, that's like instantly, like never going back to that site again. There's no trust built. But what you can do on LinkedIn, unlike, I would argue, any social platform out there, because this is a network of business, as much as we're not salesy, I agree, but as this is a network of business, you've got 655 million people on LinkedIn from all over the world. It is a very high quality network. People like to get to know the people behind the profile. Even when we're not doing the in-person LinkedIn locals like this, probably every single person I've already seen in Boston knows what I've been doing the last 72 hours because they're into the cult of Brian. I'm not going to like change your name and make you switch religions. It's not like that. You're not going to leave the room losing a kidney or anything like that. But people find what I'm talking about there interesting. Now, I think in terms of sharing kind of some business and some personal, I think that there's a lot of divisive stuff that we're going to leave for some of those other social networks where people argue until they're blue in the face and you're not going to change the other person's mind. So I think that we don't have to be divisive. I find that LinkedIn is a very supportive and uplifting community where we're all giving each other shout outs on here. I know we've chatted a lot in the past. So I think that it's a very good network for positivity. It's a wonderful place to build a personal brand. And there's things that are personal in your personal brand, and there's things that are private, right? You don't have to get into everything private. You don't have to bare your soul to every single thing that's ever happened to you. I get a little firewalled sometimes. I don't need everybody knowing everything about my personal life. Like, this is not a Halloween costume, and sometimes there's anti-Semitism on the internet, and I don't really like that so much. Who knows what this guy's going to say next? I said I live on the internet, so. Yeah, I think that you can get into things that are personal, not private, and also interspersed business. Like Mark, I've had tremendous success there with some Fortune 500 companies. It's changed the nature and fabric of what we've done. And it's amazing. Any of us could probably roll up to any different city and say, hey, people at City X, we're going to be there that day. You don't think that you could get together with a bunch of people, it's not going to be a crowd of 200 people, but it's going to be something. And I think that there's value no matter where you go, cross-pollinating the online with the in-person. So definitely keep those Bluetooths on, connect with everybody that's here, and then let that be the start of a beautiful relationship.
How much time do you spend on other social networks? How much time do you spend on LinkedIn, and then how much time do you spend on other social networks?
You want me to go?
I absolutely love the content. I love how you are able to merge not just business, but personal with business. And that's my first question, is because typically it's, business is business, life is life. You don't merge the two. But it seems as if you guys have all perfected the ability to merge the two without having one take over the next, or having it be too business or too personal. How did you find your happy medium?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm so excited. It's the first time in Boston. So thank you for having me. The coffee is amazing. Way too much.
Don't have Dunkin', that's not real.
I did.
How?
From what I heard, the question is how do we find the balance of personal to business? So for me, when I was jumping on LinkedIn, it was literally like exactly what you thought of LinkedIn like when it just came out, right? Like the resume, that's where you go to get hired. So nobody was really doing anything outside of like typing, like this is what I'm going through, this is my story. There was really no videos. That's throwing me off. I thought you were throwing numbers at me. But for me, like I knew that no one was going to listen to a kid that didn't really have any experience yet. I was building this company. He failed a bunch of times, so I just started telling stories, and I found my success in just being different. One of my favorite quotes is, "It's good to be better, but it's better to be different." Like that's all I did. I just told stories, and this is what I'm going through. This is what it's like. I didn't pretend to know anything that I didn't. In terms of balance, like for me, it's just I'm the same dude when you see me on camera. I'm the same dude when I'm closing a deal. I'm the same dude when I'm with my dog. It's just this is who I am, and I have that overall clarity on that. So if you have that clarity, you can do anything online and offline. That's me. So not really a balance, just this is who I am.
I actually hesitated on that question because I don't feel like I have a balance at all. As an entrepreneur, I feel like I'm always working, and I feel like I'm never working. It's living the dream. So I just want to actually give a bit of a shout out to Mark, because we're here to talk about how we use LinkedIn. And one of the reason we met was I was looking through on LinkedIn, looking for other radio and TV and podcasters, etc. And I found Mark. And I invited him to be on my TV show. He invited me to be on his podcast. And I want to say that he has done the one thing that I suggest to all 200 of our guests to do. Pull a 30 to 60 second clip and promote that. He had featured Gary Vee. He mentioned Gary Vee in his message. He had like 30,000 views of this one clip. So he's a rock star with LinkedIn. And when you reach out to people, find people that you want to do business with and just reach right out to them. That's what I did with Mark. So I really don't differentiate the two. My life is my business. And being in recovery as an alcoholic and talking about my sobriety is something that I guess you could say is personal. But for me, when I mention it from the stage, I always get people that really appreciate that, whether they've had an alcohol or drug problem or not. They can always relate to being authentic and genuine and showing up and telling it like it is. So that's all I bring my personal in.
How are you guys all doing that?
Good.
Thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate so many great people in the room that I've met, Greg, and a lot of other people around that I really just look up to. And before I begin, I want to give a shout out to Q, because I wouldn't even be on LinkedIn if it wasn't for Quentin. And I remember way back when I interviewed him at the beginning of last year, and we just had a chill conversation about his life story, how he got to be And I remember he kept on talking about LinkedIn. He kept on talking about how it's such a great opportunity for real people to really just be their authentic selves and push the kind of content they want to do. So when it comes to like professional, personal balance, honestly for me, I think it's quite different. Like I've never had a 9-to-5 job. I've always just done my own thing. And I talk a little bit on LinkedIn about business, but honestly, I'm more or less, I really like talking about things that are personal, things like mental health issues. Like I literally, like an hour before this started, I wrote a post about how many times have you cried, like just in the last week or so, or when was the last time you cried? And I feel like for me, coming from my background, honestly, the reason why I'm on LinkedIn is not to get business. I do have a business. I have plenty of clients that have come because I keep putting out the personal side of me. But when it really comes to holistically everything that I do, I really feel like it is truly encompassing in who I am as an individual that enables me to get that business. So I've maybe made like 10 posts in my entire LinkedIn career about business. And honestly, the posts that are more personal, that have nothing to do with business, do really well because at the end of the day, for example, I landed a client of mine who's a massive CEO in like the Fortune 200, and it literally just started from us on a personal note and her with her son. And so, I keep seeing this lesson everywhere I go, whether it's at events or online or this conference or whatever it is. Just be yourself, put out your truths, your values, and the people that are going to really empathize with that, those are the people that you want in your circle. Other people, who cares? There's like 8 billion people. You're not gonna, and not everyone's gonna like you. And it's just that factor of like not necessarily just looking at life in black and white, but more or less what Cammie said of how it's really a merge. But that being said, I definitely think there is a balance that somebody can have of personal and of professional, where you're not super salesy, but then at the same time, you're also being with yourself, and you're also connecting to potential clients that you could help out and either help their business or their own personal lives. So I feel like from my perspective, it is just simply a matter of just getting out there, just trying to share my truth with the world. And if that has to do with business, that's cool.
So I gotta come after all that. All right. No pressure. So, how many people like brands on the internet?
Like what?
Brands.
Instagram.
No, not infograms. Brands. B-R-A-N-D-S.
Oh.
They don't usually do that good a job, right? Like you don't really trust having a conversation with some corporate logo a lot of the time. You know that there's good people, hopefully, behind these brands, but we don't really have an emotional attachment to them. So, how many of you have gone to a website and you dig around and you're thinking about using a product or service, maybe it's something you like, maybe it's something that you got recommended to you by a friend, and then you go to the About page and it says, our engineers, our people have 200 years of combined experience, yet none of them have a profile picture and we don't know who they are. To me, that's like instantly, like never going back to that site again. There's no trust built. But what you can do on LinkedIn, unlike, I would argue, any social platform out there, because this is a network of business, as much as we're not salesy, I agree, but as this is a network of business, you've got 655 million people on LinkedIn from all over the world. It is a very high quality network. People like to get to know the people behind the profile. Even when we're not doing the in-person LinkedIn locals like this, probably every single person I've already seen in Boston knows what I've been doing the last 72 hours because they're into the cult of Brian. I'm not going to like change your name and make you switch religions. It's not like that. You're not going to leave the room losing a kidney or anything like that. But people find what I'm talking about there interesting. Now, I think in terms of sharing kind of some business and some personal, I think that there's a lot of divisive stuff that we're going to leave for some of those other social networks where people argue until they're blue in the face and they're not going to change the other person's mind. So I think that we don't have to be divisive. I find that LinkedIn is a very supportive and uplifting community where we're all giving each other shout outs on here. I know we've chatted a lot in the past. So I think that it's a very good network for positivity. It's a wonderful place to build a personal brand. And there's things that are personal in your personal brand, and there's things that are private, right? You don't have to get into everything private. You don't have to bare your soul to every single thing that's ever happened to you. I get a little firewalled sometimes. I don't need everybody knowing everything about my personal life. Like, this is not a Halloween costume, and sometimes there's anti-Semitism on the internet, and I don't really like that so much. Who knows what this guy's going to say next? Like I said, I live on the internet, so. Yeah, I think that you can get into things that are personal, not private, and also intersperse business. Like Mark, I've had tremendous success there with some Fortune 500 companies. It's changed the nature and fabric of what we've done. And it's amazing. Any of us could probably roll up to any different city and say, hey, people at City X, we're going to be there that day. You don't think that you could get together with a bunch of people. It's not going to be a crowd of 200 people, but it's going to be something. And I think that there's value no matter where you go, cross-pollinating the online with the in-person. So definitely keep those Bluetooths on, connect with everybody that's here, and then let that be the start of a beautiful relationship.
How much time do you spend on other social networks? How much time do you spend on LinkedIn, and then how much time do you spend on other social networks?
You want me to go? Go for it. Social media anymore. I'd say if my social media time was a pie chart, I'd probably give about 90% to LinkedIn. I leave a lot of other social networks on. I feel like I leave Facebook on because a lot of people like using Facebook Messenger. Instagram, I'm very irregular. Twitter's mainly when I put my journalistic hat on and if there's stories that I want to share. I feel like that's great for real-time news and journalism. Like I said, Instagram, not so much. Pinterest once in a while. I don't jump out of windows or lip sync, so I'm not on TikTok so much. We knew that was coming. So yeah, I feel like I keep LinkedIn open most of the time, and that's a good 90% of my social time.
As soon as I get the opportunity to do LinkedIn Live, I will be on LinkedIn a lot more. Yeah.
Okay, so quick show of hands. How many people here have LinkedIn Live?
How do I not have LinkedIn Live?
Anybody who wants to talk about LinkedIn Live, let's chat at the end.
Thank you.
Cool.
So I applied for it because I heard that you had to do that, and I didn't get the blessing of doing it. But I do know it's going to be open to everybody soon. So as soon as I can go live in LinkedIn, that will be my only platform. But I do a lot of lives in Facebook, but then I'll do them for less than 10 minutes so that I can save them on my phone. You don't want to bring a link from Facebook into LinkedIn because it'll get rid of it. But if you save the video in your phone so that it's clean, virgin video, then you can upload it onto LinkedIn like it's just for LinkedIn. So I do a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, it's definitely changed over the years, but I'd maybe say like, I don't know if I can put an exact amount of time on it, but I'd maybe say like 65% goes into LinkedIn. The other is divided into, probably the biggest group is Instagram, because I find that a lot of people, once they find out about you on LinkedIn, they do a little bit of digging, and Instagram has like 1 billion monthly users that are active every month. And so a lot of people have Instagram, they'll look at your story, they'll look at your personal life, they'll look at what you're doing in the day. It helps form a better, complete picture. And so I use Instagram a lot. Probably the next one after that is Twitter for sort of similar things, like I just have a random thought, I'm going to tweet that. And next, I'm definitely going to try to hop on TikTok. So, wish me luck.
We're going to have to do a duet.
I'm down.
Oh, yeah.
I am in love with Pinterest. I don't know why, but I've had an addiction since college. Like I'll literally just go on pinning sprees. But for me, I'm at the point where it's like, hey, like LinkedIn's going great, so brought on someone to help me literally the biggest document full time. So how can we create so I don't have to think about it, so that LinkedIn can run itself? I'll engage. I'm still on there all the time, but now let's go on Instagram, let's go on Twitter, let's go on TikTok, let's go on every single platform. So I'm everywhere for the most part, but I've learned that if you know what makes you unique, and you know why people follow you, it doesn't matter what platform it is. I think people obsess over, it's LinkedIn. Pinterest is great too.
That's a great segue as far as content is concerned. How do you create content? And that's the big thing, like you have to create. Let's also pin onto that, Pinterest. Has videos helped more than just blogging?
I can go quick. So a lot of people look at like video views from my team and they're like, yo, like that had 100,000 views, that's great. I'm gonna replicate that. They're not looking at the stuff in the back end. You think it, like most of our clients and all the big opportunities have come from our blogs. likes, which no one would guess because 1,000 views. But if you think about it, those people are going there and saying, yo, I really want to consume this. Whereas a video view is just, you're scrolling past it, you know? So I would say blogging has been huge for us, and for the most part, everybody on our team does it. In terms of creating content, like there's a lot of different things. Like we'll have ideation sessions. I'm big on experiments. Izzy's like, hey, like let's do something crazy. So I was like, okay, what about this event? Like, let's just put a box there and let's see what happens. Let's invite people. We're going to send you a text message. Show up at this time. You don't know what's going to go on. Just be prepared for this. And we created this beautiful like video from it. And people just started opening up about like all these things that they've been struggling with. But it was just an experiment. So this content all around you, for us, it's just every day. Let's just record everything. And let's some are planned, some are not. But it's all around us. But in terms of like blogging and all the different formats, I would say test everything and figure out what works for you.
Yeah, so for me, I'm most well known for hosting the Humans 2.0 podcast. And when I really started that, I had no idea what I would even want to say on the internet. And so for me, it really just began just having conversations with other people, interviewing them. And as I began to go into that process, and as I began interviewing you and all these other people, you know, I slowly started to almost form like a muscle of what's going on, you know, in the environment, and then also what message do I want to bring in that I feel like is lacking in the, you know, content environment. And so kind of content I put out could be, you know, like Kenny said, like snippets from the interview. It could just me whipping out my phone and just, I don't know, me waking up with an idea, or maybe getting the same question again and again and over for people. I play it just sort of very logical. I don't make like a content calendar or anything like that. I just host the podcast. There's literally hundreds of hours of content on there that I don't even know what to begin with to do with. I'm trying my best. And then just all of my personal experience leading up to that. And in terms of video or other content mediums, I think, like you said, I think everybody has a different personality. Everybody has a different form of expression in the world. For some people it might be drawing. For other people it might be talking. For some other people it might be singing. For some other people it might be writing. I think it's a combination of using those formats to find out how to express yourself, and also with the understanding of it might change. For me, sort of like in my come up in 2016 for my business, I literally wrote an article every single day, never recorded a podcast, never recorded a video. It was only until after I did that for a year that I was able to be like, okay, this is cool, but I'm going to stick to audio because that's much more my style. I remember when I started, I didn't want people to know what I looked like. I don't want people to see my face. It's so funny now, but yeah, it's beautiful. Thanks, man. You're beautiful too. But really, I think it's just a matter of experimenting, finding what works best for you, and not necessarily always appealing to, you know, trying to live stream or trying to go on video because that's a cool thing to do. If you can find the medium that works best for you at this time and just stick with it and really, you know, triple down on it, you're going to form an audience that's going to be able to enjoy your content. If you then switch and say, I want to start writing, or like for me, I'm about to start making music, so it's like, and now I can bring some of those people in with those common interests. So it's a really interesting conversation to have for sure.
I just want to add quickly, like video is also like, it's an epicenter, so like, hey, this video hit 100,000 views, it resonated. Let's turn that into an article. It resonated, let's take this piece that people are talking about, let's turn it into a quote. Oh, well, that resonated, let's turn it and put it in this photo, you know? So just using that to create other mediums as well.
Ooh, boy, we can take one video and put it on all the different platforms. So I know that a lot of people are all about creating totally different content for all the different platforms, but a lot of people that I meet, my clients, aren't even doing video yet. They're not even really that present on social media like I would think that they would be. So if you do one Facebook Live, for example, and then save it on your phone, you can put that on 5 different platforms in 3 minutes and just keep it really simple. And I know these guys are way more advanced than I am about, you know, putting closed caption on all there and all that stuff, but really keep it simple. One video, you can put it everywhere. When you put it on YouTube, you can get it transcribed. As a matter of fact, when I wrote my book, I did video. I did 15 videos that were 5 to 10 minutes apiece, got the videos transcribed, gave it to my editor, and I had a book in 2 months. So that's a
Hold on, say that again?
Yeah. So when I wanted to write my book, I thought about it, and I was going to do an outline, and it just was so overwhelming getting perfectionism, you know, where do I put the commas, and where do I start a paragraph, and just all that crazy stuff. So I thought, well, if I write the book, then I've got to do audio, and then I'll need to make videos to go with the book. And I thought, wait a minute, I'm just going to reverse engineer it. So I was told, come up with the 10 things that you're an expert at. What are the 10 things people ask you or that you find that you say over and over? So for me, for example, the book is about networking. And by the way, I wrote the book on networking, and networking sucks. It sucks. So what I teach is net webbing, which has to do with creating a strategy around what you're doing. But those 10 questions had to do with, like, you know, where are good places to go network, or how do I start a conversation with people, etc. So I made the outline, I did video, the videos were 5 to 15 minutes a piece, just me talking straight from the heart, got them transcribed, gave the transcription to my editor, and 2 months later I had a book. And that's how I'll do the next book too, which is called Lead or Be Led. So when it comes to creating content, I am a co-host of a TV show. It's my friend's show, which Mark was on. It's called The Happiness Jungle. So that's her entity and her brand. And I've been wanting to do my own show. And as of Friday this week, I'm actually going to be doing a radio show. But the reason I'm doing a radio show, it seems like I'm taking a step back. But the radio show is, I'll be doing Facebook Live. So I've been wanting to do a Facebook Live series again anyway. So I'll be doing Facebook Live, and it'll be on the radio, and I'll be able to invite more guests. So my suggestion is, if you guys really want to build relationships with people and not have to network the normal way, when you have a series on one of these platforms, you can say, hey, you want to be on my show? You want to be on my series? Would you like me to interview you? It's a great way to break the ice, build credibility, build rapport. That's why I met Mark. That's why I met so many people in the room, is by inviting people to be on my show. So that's a great way to create content.
Let me give a different kind of answer. I'm going to put my analyst hat on. This is a good part to take notes. We're also recording live. If you're wondering, I'm not just checking email over here. I'm just watching to see if there's anybody asking any questions from the internet, because Tully's monitoring the live stream right here. So I would say that LinkedIn is looking for both a variety of types of content that you're doing and the format of content that you're doing. So if we take it from the top of the totem pole, let's start with the bottom of the totem pole. If you guys are just sharing links outside of the ecosystem and you're linking text or a website, no, don't do that. LinkedIn doesn't want people to leave LinkedIn, right? So if you want to do that, I know you want to do that, but just don't do that. Bear with me a second. I'll show you a better way to do that. But let's start from the top now. I'd say that since live video is kind of new and interesting and hot, and there's probably 1,000 or 2,000 people, and a lot of brands, by the way, have pages. It's just that you probably don't follow the brands, like you said before, so you're missing out. But I'd say live video tends to consistently do well. But on top of that, for stuff that everybody has, guess what? One that you might not even have noticed. You ever see when you're contributing content at the top, you see the little document icon? How many of you, show of hands, have ever done a document share? Not too many. So my best post on LinkedIn ever was just shy of 1 million views. My best document share was about 500,000 or 600,000 views, and it was a PDF of an infographic that we had done in the past. Document sharing, algorithmically, tends to score a lot better, and you can also write a whole description of it. It looks really good on mobile. You can swipe through it. It's a fantastic thing that I'm sure many of you, in whatever kind of business or service that you're doing, have some kind of PDF to share with all sorts of information on it. After that, interestingly, I would recommend video. And by the way, there is an easy way to do video captions. There's this place called YouTube. It's a great big network that still exists. This isn't a YouTube event. But if you upload a video into your YouTube, you can do it unlisted or private or whatever. There's an ability, I don't remember all the screens in my head, but there's somewhere in there where you can make auto transcriptions. Is it perfect? No, but you've got it done in like 30 seconds. You can download that puppy back down. When you're uploading the video back to LinkedIn, you can click the little pencil in the upper right, add that SRT file, and then you're good to go. How many of you guys, just like me, you wake up in the morning and you're scrolling through your Facebook, you're scrolling through your LinkedIn, let's stick to LinkedIn for a second, you see a video, and you're like, I don't know, I'm not sure what this person's going to be talking about. Even if it's somebody that you like, because they're not getting to the point, if there aren't captions on there, you might just blow right by it. So for people with disabilities, and I would say for SEO purposes, and also to just stop that scroll, it's super important to add it. And you know, I'm a hypocrite, so I don't do it all the time. But hey, whatever. I'm telling you where it is. After that, pictures. this is a good spot to do pictures. There's all sorts of cool LinkedIn people. Everybody here is cool. Everybody's a universe. Everybody's got cool stories to tell. You can do up to 5 pictures in a post, just like Instagram and all those cool places. You can also add alt text, and you can tag people in the posts by clicking on all their faces. Those things score really well. After that, we've got all the short form posts, which the internet used to call broetry back when that was hot back in the day. You'd add like a couple lines and a couple emojis. Not everybody's super into that anymore, but I'll tell you, I see people that just write a couple little text lines and it goes through the roof. So mix it up. And then after that, if you want those long form posts, publish an article, the little thing under the box. If you're imagining the LinkedIn screen when you first come in, if you've got a lot of stuff to say, those things are good because they index in Google. They used to be great because there used to be an editorial thing called LinkedIn Pulse, but they've changed a lot with that program. I know they're making changes right now, so I'd say that's kind of the last thing you should do, except for those links. By the way, one quick thing that I noticed over time, if you add a photo so it doesn't automatically put the link and the link preview, and you put the link in the post rather than the comments, it actually still does pretty well. Because it's not quite the same thing as taking people out of it. So just between that and constantly mixing it up. So don't just do video after video or talk about the same thing. Talk about different things. Some things can be business, some things can be personal. That's what LinkedIn and that's what all the people that are following you really want to see. They want to see all the dimensions. Do we have a question?
Yeah, quick question. If you don't mind, just a quick question. I know we're all talking about all the different content strategies and all the different platforms. If you don't mind, the town doesn't mind sharing, what is the ultimate goal? It's a lot of time, a lot of effort, someone's a lot of money to create this. What's the bottom line result that we're all after?
I love building relationships, and it's a wonderful amount of sales that come off of the platform. I think if we weren't getting financial success, I probably wouldn't show up there as much, and I'd probably spread it out over other networks.
Well, and another thing about content creation and the personal versus business, one of the things that I teach my clients is purpose-driven marketing. So when we're creating content, for example, my friend Bill here brought me a couple of American flags, if you want to show me the flag. They're working with veterans, and I've got a group that I work with that cuts the stars off of these veterans, off these flags. Thank you, I'll just hold it. Thank you. And so when we have something to do with veterans and we can do a video about that or create content about that, we're helping our veterans, we're helping the organization, our business is being seen, they're seeing our heart-centered side, our personal side. So there's a group up in New Hampshire that will cut the stars off of these flags and give the stars to our enlisted people as they're coming home. It's a beautiful thing called Peace Greeters. I've got another client, Brett, who's doing something with sending kids to summer camp who can't afford it. And the thing is, when they're on social media telling people about the veterans or the animals or the domestic abuse or the kids or what have you, it creates content, it gets engagement, people get to see them. As I say, they get to leave their icky salesperson at home and show up powerfully so people get to meet them. And then they do want to do business and they're helping. I've got another friend here that's helping kids around the world. So purpose-driven marketing is a great content creator, and it's a great way to bring your personal and business together, make money while you're making a difference.
We are strapping for time, so if you can get...
Find the right mental, emotional, psychological tools to take self-heal.
Leave a legacy.
Okay, so I want to contact Brian, but Brian has 7,000 plus people trying to contact him today. How do I contact you to say, listen, I want to work with you, you know, little old Taylor Andre, only have 3 followers, I know I'm nobody, but how do you reach out? What's the proper way of trying to network, icky word, when you may not be in the same position of the person you're trying to network with?
Okay. So first off, it doesn't matter how many followers I have, you have, he has, she has. We're just regular people here. Anybody who's too big for their britches like that, you might not want to really be networking with anybody. So I think that, and people start to lose their sight with that, or at least, and I don't blame them. I mean, what if you have 20 million followers? You might need a staff to just get on top of all of that. But as long as the person is responsive, you should be able to connect with them. You can hit follow or you can hit connect. If you're going to hit connect, give some context. if you met me tonight, or you're hearing me speak tonight, you could, if you just hit connect, and I didn't know that, you're kind of missing the context. So I don't know what you want, and a lot of people are selective in their connections. So when you are going to put out a connection request, try to say, hi, I saw you speak at X. You were really good. I want to go talk to you and give you a bag of money. Or I want to go be your buddy. I want to be like you. And you told me about that LinkedIn Live thing. You better get back to me right now. Well, like I said, we'll have a conversation about that. It's not that simple, but we can talk about it. But I think that it's normal and appropriate to reach out, talk about the context. If you don't feel like making a one-on-one connection, a lot of people keep it in the comments around content. So some people that want to talk to me, and maybe they feel intimidated because, oh wow, we're the LinkedIn influencers, whatever that means. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, being internet famous doesn't mean anything. Nobody stops me on the street and asks for my autograph. I don't get like flown around and put in limos or anything. I don't know if you guys do. No,
do you
just
think,
sure.
Can anybody else speak to, and really quickly, because I don't mean to rush you, I wish we could stay here all night, but can you speak to, like, I'm in Belgium, you're in America. I wasn't at a LinkedIn conference. We don't know each other, but I do want to connect, and I do want maybe a LinkedIn Live, both of us together.
Well, I have a lot to say about how to connect with people, and that's what the book is about. And I want to give a couple of the books away. Who here would like to be a, there you go, right there, you put your hand up. So one of the things is research, reach out, relationship build. So before we even come to an event, and I'll sign that for you, Dan. Before we even come to an event, to research who's going to be there, to reach out to them before you even go, so that you can relationship build like I did with these good folks before we even came. So that's one thing if you're going to an event. But when you're reaching out on social media or anywhere in an email and a text, to make it very engaging, to say something personal, hey, I love your headshot. Hey, that's an interesting spelling of your last name. Are you related to so-and-so? Hey, you were in the town that I went to school in. You know so-and-so. In other words, something personal so they know that it's not copied and pasted and it's just a random thing. And at the end, ask them a question that requires them to follow up with you so that you're not just making a statement like have a great weekend, but you're actually asking them questions so that they engage.
What are you doing this weekend?
Don't answer.
Just quickly, I would say, one, don't use LinkedIn if you try to reach someone on LinkedIn that's big on LinkedIn. Go through Twitter, go through Instagram, go through Facebook. It's going to be a lot easier. Or wherever they're spending their time. Two, just be consistent. Comment on all their stuff. Like, there's people that literally know my entire life. Hey, dude, in 6th grade, I remember that time. Like, I remember that. I'll never forget that. Just be consistent and go through the back door. Go through the side door, the back door, third door, whatever that book is. Use a different way.
Yes, that's so cool. So when I interviewed the author of that book, The Third Door, you know, for me personally, I feel super uncomfortable asking anybody for anything, and so one of the reasons why I started my podcast is because I wanted to create a system where I could have a mutually valuable exchange with somebody and not just ask somebody to pick their brain or have 30 minutes out of their life that they could spend with their family or, you know, at their job or whatever they value in life. And so I feel like the whole name of the game is having mutual value. You should never message somebody and ask them for something right away. The same way that, you know, I think in real life, you wouldn't just walk up to some random person and be like, hey, follow my page, or, you know, whatever you want to put out there. And so for me, that's in the form of a podcast because somebody can come on, I can say, hey, I built this audience, I can help you with the book, or if you're launching a business or whatever it is. And so that's what I think the whole name of the game is about. And like you said, I feel like it's super important to, you know, if somebody has 4 million followers on Instagram, probably shouldn't reach out to them on Instagram because it's going to get caught up with all the saturation. Check their email. Maybe go to their website page, use a Google plugin called Hunter.io, find all the email addresses of that company, and maybe email their assistant. I don't know. It's just a really interesting puzzle. And if you lead with that human value, mutual value add, I think you'll win.
Okay, really quickly, rapid fire. And if you guys have any questions, I can come to you. This gentleman has a comment. Does content get old? So Facebook reminds you, 3 years ago you said X, Y, Z. Does content have an expiration date? Can you recycle old content?
So long as it's evergreen, you can always use it. I can't talk about Musical.ly because Musical.ly is not TikTok. So it's evergreen, you can use it.
100%. I posted a video a couple of days ago from a video that I made like 8 months ago. And as long as it's evergreen, as long as it's not, you're not talking about, what are you doing today, December 12th, 2018? As long as it's not something like that, I think you can definitely repost it, but I would just say to maybe update, add on your additional thoughts, because I know my thoughts change from time to time, so definitely.
If it's technology, obviously that gets old, but when it's communication, human interaction, bridging the humanity gap, when we are taught how to communicate with people, that's always evergreen. So I can put something up from 10 years ago about how to introduce yourself to someone, how to look at people's body language or their personality style, and that's always going to be universal.
I'm going to go back to document sharing on this one. So probably once a week, I'll take an infographic, I'll make a PDF of it, I'll chop it up, and without fail, it gets 20, 30, 50, 100, 500,000 views. So yes, I have a different kind of art that you might have, but everybody's got some kind of PDF, and it should look good. But I think that particular format seems to do really well, and on top of what everybody just said with everything.
This gentleman right here.
That was actually the biggest mistake. And I think it is very much the willingness to be able to fail, the willingness to put something up out there. Like, I've made some posts, of course not that LinkedIn success is everything, but I've made some posts, didn't think twice about it, thought nobody would see this, totally blew up, led to a ton of other things. And what was your next question? Sorry.
Moving forward, what is your next big move so we can catch up with you guys?
So for me, I'm working on a book right now that's a part of the podcast, and it's not going to be a novel or like a self-help book or anything like that. It's going to be really like a step-by-step guide where people can customize their own journey. I don't know if you guys ever have heard of like those adventure books, like a long time ago, where like you go to this chapter and it's like, hey, what do you decide to do? So I want to make one of those based on somebody's mindset, because I know everyone's different, and it's like if I could give that to somebody based on the resources, information that I've gathered through the podcast, and offer them almost like a map to their own journey, I feel like that would be pretty cool. So that's what I've got in the works.